No matter the occasion, whether it's a date or a family holiday outing, daytime ice skating at Cameron Run Regional Park is sure to delight. Just minutes from Old Town Alexandria. Skate on the outdoor rink and stay warm with hot chocolate, or make s'mores over a fire pit. This unique winter experience is only available for a limited time. Open daily December 18th through 30th and weekends in January and February. Buy tickets today at CameronIceandLights.com. That's CameronIceandLights.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. On today's podcast, we are getting ready for the Cheltenham Festival with former champion hurdle-winning jockey and BBC racing presenter, pundit, expert Richard Pitman, and Sam Martin, a young writer for Rein in Racing and a content creator for Careers in Racing. Thank you both for joining me.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, on today's podcast, we're going to talk about your Cheltenham memories. Richard's will be a bit longer than yours, Sam, and give listeners a few horses to follow between the 15th and 18th of March. But let's start with you, Sam. How much are you looking forward to the Cheltenham Festival?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. It's always a highlight of my year, I suppose. Whether we like it or not, the jump season is tailored to those 4 days in March, and I feel like there's quite an open feeling to the races at the festival this year. We could see a lot of brilliant horses. Obviously we will, and hopefully a lot of thrilling races to go with it.
And still being at school, how do you manage, during that week to watch the races? Do you can't say on the podcast here that you're going to bunk off school those afternoons?
I don't think I can justify it, to be fair. In the middle of, I've got AS levels coming up, so I probably can't have the days off school, but it would just involve running home from the bus stop, I think, to get there as soon as possible. Thank God for recordings. So I'll just have it all recorded, and when I get home at 4 o'clock, I'll have to start from the start. I'll be logging out of Twitter. I won't be able to look at it, so I don't get any spoilers, I suppose.
And Richard, how much are you looking forward to the 4-day festival?
I live for it and for Aintree. Those two things keep me alive because I was born only barely half a mile from the course. So, it really excites me. And Aintree, of course, we'll get onto that in a while, I expect. It's just the pinnacle, it's everyone builds up for so long. And this period now, trainers, you can't talk to them. They get twitchy, they walk their stables. I'm just so excited for everyone. I don't think I dislike anyone, so I'm pleased for whoever wins because I know what goes into it. As does Sam, she's always going around stables, and the passion is just so strong.
And talking about memories, then, Richard, yours goes back a bit longer than Sam's. What's your first memory of the Cheltenham Festival?
Bunking off school at Tewkesbury Grammar School, which is why I failed 9 O-levels, all 9, didn't even get religious instruction or woodwork. And I used to walk, my parents didn't know, and I'd go out in my school clothes with my racing clothes in my satchel, and I'd change in a hollowed out burnt oak tree and leave my satchel with my school clothes in it and walk across the fields, cross the railway, which is still going now as a tourist attraction, and I'd eat my lunch sitting in the wings at the fence at the top of the hill. And the first one I remember, and it's vivid, and I think it was Brian Marshall and Arthur Thompson, long gone now, came round to go down that quickening slope towards home, one going well and one off the bridle. The one off the bridle really pushed the head off his horse to get upsides the other one and put his hand over and took the bridle off his rival, who quickly did a right-hand turn and went towards Winchcombe. Well, of course, that was the day before cameras everywhere, but it was so exciting. I thought, can this be real? And I was sitting there watching it. And that was, I was 12, so a very long time ago.
And what about yourself, Sam? Just to give a bit of perspective here, I think you're born in 2004, is that right?
I was, yes.
That's the year, just to to say it's the year when Best Mate won his 3rd Gold Cup. So what's your first memory of the Cheltenham Festival?
I don't really have it's not a specific year. I just know Channel 4 was still doing the racing. It's probably, I've got no idea, but I had the whole week off school, not intentionally. I was really, really poorly. And I spent the whole week just lying on the settee watching the racing. And I ended up, I think I hallucinated JP McManus horses everywhere. That's how poorly I was. But it got me hooked on the sport. So, I'd love to know what year, and I'd love to know whether JP McManus really did have a good festival, or it was just my mind playing tricks on me.
It must have been those colours, mustn't it?
Yeah.
And back to you, Richard. What was your first ride at the Cheltenham Festival?
Oh, I haven't a clue. Not a clue. I had, luckily, as I rode for Fred Winter from 1964, but didn't start riding good horses until 67 or 8. And I can't remember, but I had so many good memories there because we had, amazingly, from just a yard of 50 horses, we had 5 of the country's best horses for quite a few seasons. But my first Gold Cup ride was on a really leery old horse called Freddy Boy. And he needed to be held up and covered up because he didn't race when he hit the front. And in those days, I'm so old, and Sam would never remember this. Of course you won't. You probably don't. The Gold Cup started where the tented village is now, and it jumped one fence before it came onto the racecourse proper. Anyway, we jumped one fence and crossed onto the racecourse proper. Whack! I was barged into the rails, and it turned out to be Timmy Hyde, who's a big pin hooker and breeder and big team player for Coolmore. Anyway, pretty hard rider, along with Ted Walsh, Ruby's father. They were hard riders. And my horse went down on its knees. Eventually, we ran on to finish 4th, so it may have done him a favour. But I said to Timmy Hyde afterwards, Timmy, that was unfair. We don't ride like that here. He said, what? Oh, I'm sorry, did I interfere with you? I said, you did. No. He called Pat Tapper for, Pat, would I do that to any? No, of course you wouldn't. No, Timmy didn't. Anyway, about 20 years later at drinks party, he came up having had a few and said, you're a big soft so-and-so you are. Of course I marmalised you. And my thinking was, if I can get rid of one early in the race, that's one less to beat at the end.
Now, you've had a good record in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I say good record. We won't mention 1973, but you. Well,
I think it's quite important. I had some good rides in it. I was second on Soothsayer, one of Fred's Winters, and Beulah, dual champion hurdler, was in the race. Frankham on that one, me on Soothsayer, who was American, very good horse. And we came down the hill, bottomless ground. We're upsides each other, chatting away. How you going, Pip? They used to call me Pip. I'm going, well, Franks, how are you? Yeah, I'm flying. And in front of us must have been Tide Cottage or something like that. Irish horse, Tommy Carberry. And Frankham, who was always an eye to the future, said, well, one of us will win. Let's split the money. Whoever wins will split the prize money, the fee. I said, well, that's all right by me. And we went to the last, still both hadn't moved. And we were about 6 lengths behind the leader, but absolutely still going well. And we both missed the fence. We both went into the bottom, tripped over it, scrambled away, but we'd lost the leader. And it's the only time I've ever beaten Frankham on the run-in. Soothsayer was second and Beulah was third, but it was bottomless ground, which we don't seem to get these days. But I will quickly go through some of the others. Pendle in 73, odds-on favourite. And we talked about tactics. I wanted to come after the last because he was a funny little horse when he hit the front. And Fred Winter, who'd won several Gold Cups as a rider, said, no, Richard, if you miss the last in a competitive Gold Cup, you won't get back. I'd rather you got beaten from being there too soon. Well, how prophetic was that? I hit the front 2 out, went to the last 3 clear, and the roar of the crowd and the colour of people and throwing hats in the air, and poor old Pendle pricked his ears and stopped momentarily, but enough to lose his stride. The Dickler came past him. Pendle fought back. Short head was the distance. A stride later, I'm half a length clear. So it was an important race, and I don't mind talking about it. But just one quickly on that, Sam, sorry to bore you, but the next year he was favourite again, Pendle. And Fred Winter said, do what you like, hold him up this time. And coming down the hill, he was running away, as if he just started the race. And I pulled him in behind High Ken, who wasn't a great jumper, going to the second last, because I didn't want to hit the front. But as I pulled in behind, the Dickler and Captain Christie have come up on my outer specifically to hem me in. That's riding, race riding. High Ken fell, brought Pendle down, end of that story. He should have won 2 Gold Cups. But just an aside and a quick one, the lad who did him in the paddock said, get this horse withdrawn. I said, you can't, he's favourite. He said, no, there's a threat, an IRA threat to have him shot if he hits the front. Now, whether it was IRA or who or what, but he'd been sleeping with that horse for 10 days and then working all through the day. A jockey cannot get a horse withdrawn. Starter vets get them withdrawn. And when it went down, of course, both Fred Winter and the lad thought the horse had been shot. And I came in and said to Terry Biddle, story. He said, that wasn't very fair. I said, no, it wasn't, was it? No, they could have missed you and got me.
And Sam, what you can't follow that. What's your favourite moments of Cheltenham?
Well, I suppose watching, I'd say it was when Champ won the RSA, because I watched it at school, and he was about, I think he was 12-1 or something like that, and or a decent price anyway. I can't remember exactly. And I'd said to my history teacher, look, he'll win. And obviously we all know how he didn't look like he was going to win. It was only kind of in the dying strides that he managed to win. But my history teacher back to the second, and I was there all smug because I'd had Champ. But that was a very thrilling race. But I was lucky enough to be at the 2020 Festival on the Tuesday. And I got to see my favourite horse, Macquarie Hill, running the Ultima, which was so exciting. I was like jumping up and down waiting for him to come into the parade ring. And then I ran down the walkway to the track, following him along. So I'd run a little bit, wait by the fence to take a picture, run a little bit, wait by the fence to take a picture. And it was amazing to see him actually in person racing at the biggest festival of them all. He didn't win. If he'd won, I probably would be a puddle on the floor and they would have had to like sweep me up and take me home. But it was really thrilling. And I saw Honeysuckle win the Mares Hurdle as well, and we were by the winning post for that race. And it was just incredible because all the people who'd like backed Benny Deja were like cheering that kind of the partnership that is Rachel Blackmore and Honeysuckle, even before they'd won all the races they've won since. So that was pretty special.
Sam, can I just butt in here a bit, Stephen? When you're standing around the parade ring and you're watching them go round, of course, you're 5'1" or something, I don't know, maybe more. But you're looking up at jockeys sitting on top of big horses. They're a long way up. Now, jockeys have a chip on their shoulder about being small, a lot of them, you see. So when you're going around these parade rings at Cheltenham, 20 deep, and you're looking down, you do notice people. And so if a jockey winks at you, don't think that he's telling you to back the horse. You know, he's just being what jockeys are like.
It's funny you say that. One of the I was waiting at Warwick on Saturday as they were coming back in, and I was like taking my pictures of all of them and looking a little bit, just looking at all the horses. And Dad went, when they passed, one of those jockeys winked at you.
Yeah, sorry, it's like, a human trait.
Sam, did you get a good mark from that history teacher?
I did actually. Yes, I did, and I got the history award for the year. And on my little certificate it says, "We miss you and your tips in the department." So, yeah,
a bit of grade inflation there.
Oh well, we don't. I like to think I earned it.
Well, I'd like to move on to some of the highlights of Cheltenham over many years. Sam, feel free to as Richard did, butt in and ask the expert a few questions. But I wanted to just speak about some topical events. Richard was about in the 1970s when we had this golden era of hurdling with Night Nurse, Monksfield, Beulah, Comedy of Errors, Sea Pigeon, and of course Lanzarote, who won in 1974. What can you tell me about those days, Richard?
Well, they were a golden era, and why is because the horses kept meeting each other. And it was just very, very exciting. And they were so different. Little Monksfield, tiny little horse, and he used to wind his legs outwards, sideways, dishing, we call it, but really badly. He'd cut the legs off another horse if he was too close. And then he was taking on the likes of Night Nurse, great, big, strong horse, and Bird's Nest, a sort of very smart, pretty, almost dressage horse. They were different horses, but all thoroughly, thoroughly good. And so they'd meet each other. It was just marvellous. And this is why jumping fans get so attached to them, because they see them that much longer than they do the flat horses who whip off to stud.
And also in 1983, we had Michael Dickinson saddling the first 5 home in the Cheltenham Gold Cup.
Yes, I know Dickie well. I used to ride with him. We both call each other Tricky Dickie. I don't know why. We're pretty straightforward, basically. Anyway, he lost stones in weight from the pressure leading up to it. And when he went to the Gold Cup, his collar of his shirt, there was about 1.5 inches of nothingness where he'd lost weight even from his neck. It was such a really passionate thing. But to get the first 5 home was great. I mean, I can still hear Peter O'Sullivan's commentary, and he's going through them, Bregorn and Wayward Lad and Captain John, blah, 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 and Dickinson's going to have the first 4 home. Oh, hang on, he's going to have the 5th. Here comes whatever it was. Ashley
House, I think, yeah.
Ashley House, yeah. No, marvellous time. And when you think, and Sam will know this going around all the yards, just to get a horse fit for the occasion you've trained him for is amazing thing to be able to do, because there are so many viruses and coughs and sneezes and blood vessels and legs. To get 5 in the race and the first 5 home, well, you have to take your hat off.
And Sam, one you must remember would be Sprinter Sacra winning the Queen Mother Champion Chase in 2013 and 2016.
Yeah, I do remember that, probably more so 2016. It was such a special time because obviously he'd been so poorly, really. And he was one of the horses that I kind of followed, one of the early horses I followed. Everybody loves him. You can't not. He was just the most gorgeous horse to look at. And when he won the Champion Chase, he was just perfect. And I mean, Nicky Henderson's kind of very good at having these 2-mile chases, Sprinter to Altior, now Shishkin, and suppose we're all just looking to see who the next one will be, not to get too carried away. But obviously Shishkin's got a very good chance in the Champion Chase this year. Richard, how do you think that maybe this, like you said about the Champion Hurdlers, the horses that we see in that race now would stack up to the horses of the 70s?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to compare eras, and I hate saying one's better than the other. But I mean, what is exciting is that Honeysuckle paired up with Rachel, who's great for the sport, is unbeaten. She was bred in Dorset. Were we discussing this earlier? No? You and I on Twitter or something, where she was bred?
I think so, yes, actually. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Is it the Proctors? She went through the ring, as most of them do. Nobody could imagine that she would be unbeaten in, is it 14?
14, now?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite incredible. And looking at her at the moment, she's a firm favourite, and you can't look past her in a way. She's slick and fast at her jumps. This is an odd one, but they all do. But I would hate to compare them. It's just times are different. We don't get the heavy ground now. At the moment we do, yes. But at the Cheltenham Festival, we never seem to get a slog like it used to be because of the drainage, which is fantastic there. So it's very hard to compare them. While I mentioned Rachel Blackmore, I just want to say she rides a super line. Now, that might sound, well, why don't they all ride a super line? Well, you can't all be in the same place, otherwise you'd be on top of each other. But she never seems to be in the wrong place. And she got up the inner, didn't she, 2 seasons ago, ran that last bend and went on to win. Whatever she seems to do seems to work. Got a great racing brain on her.
And keeping on the highlights, two memorable occasions when you were working for the BBC, Richard, must have been when Desi won the Gold Cup in 1989 and Dawn Run in 1986.
Yeah. Desi, I mean, everyone's hero, grey, loved to jump like Pegasus, very, very good around Kempton right-handed, but didn't like going left. And so when he eventually won the Gold Cup, everyone was pleased for Ellsworth, the owner, for the horse especially. And I'd say to anyone going to Cheltenham, go to the Hall of Fame and go, as you start to walk down it, there's like a photo frame with nothing in it until you get close. It's a hologram of Desert Orchid and Janice Coyle, of course. She was always with Desi. So this hologram, you pass it, and as you walk half a pace later, it moves too. It's the most surreal experience because if you're not ready for it, you jump out of your skin. No, Desi was an amazing horse. I hate it when someone says it was a moderate or a weak race for any big race. They all take winning and you can only beat what's there. But he beat Yahoo, who wasn't in the same league, really. So what was Ellen Dawn Run? Oh,
Dawn Run, yeah, 1986.
Yeah, big, rangy mare. I mean, she was 17 hands, I'd say. And she was owned by a tiny little leprechaun of a woman, if you can have female leprechauns, I don't know, and called Charmian Hill. And she used to ride her at home. And when we went there with the BBC to do a feature on her, she was late and she's come back in her riding clothes, streaming blood all over her face, where I said, "Oh, Mrs. Hill, are you all right?" "Oh, yeah, sure. I galloped through some bramble bushes and, I only just got through them. They were taking the face off me." A lovely woman. So anyway, you have to remember, Stephen, she'd won the champion hurdle. Tony Mullins on board. He was replaced by John Joe O'Neill for the Gold Cup. And that was controversial, but people make decisions. And so it worked out. And again, I can hear Peter O'Sullivan, his commentary, because Wayward Lad hit the front, going to the last. There were 3 in front, I think, of Dawn Run. And she came back with a great resurgence, as that hill does. It changes races. And O'Sullivan was saying, Wayward Lad just starting to flounder a little bit. And so, and Dawn Run making ground. And the mare's going to get up. It was a marvellous thing. I think he must have backed it. He was so excited about it. But it was a great feat. From there to win a champion hurdle, then a Gold Cup. Marvellous thing.
So when you see mares like Dawn Run winning the big races, how do you feel about the mares only hurdles and chases now? Because I've got a bit of an issue with the lack of mares in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I think recently it's only been Shattered Love, and even kind of she's the only one in kind of my lifetime really to actually run in the race.
Yeah, it's a big point. But Sam, as you will see from going racing and following so much now, they have boosted the mares' races tremendously. Good prizes, lots of them. And as in tennis, I suppose, the girls have a job or can't compete with the men. So when you get this odd mare that can compete, it's great, and they're few and far between. I mean, the tennis analogy is another thing, going back to it. You put Serena Williams in there amongst Nadal and Federer, she wouldn't hold a candle to them. But when you get a good mare, they are very, very good. But that brings us on to the subject of, should they have a £7 allowance from the geldings if they're a top mare? I think, yes, to encourage them to run against the boys all through the winter, yeah, get £7. But if you're good enough to be very fancy or to run in one of these big races, level weights would be my thinking.
And talking about changes, Richard, and Sam, feel free to ask ask the expert here a few questions. How much has Cheltenham changed over the years since you first went?
Oh, this is a real sort of desert island disc thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I'm so old that I can remember 3 different winners' enclosures. One of them was right up, way up where the hot dog van is behind the press room there, and maybe even a bit higher up, and only 20 people could get round it. You know, it was pathetic. Then it moved to above and beyond the parade ring now, and you could get a couple of hundred people around it. Now, of course, not just with the steppings that originated in that sort of lovely backdrop to the winners' enclosure, now with that walkway above it going from the stands, you can get 3,500 people watching the winners come in. It has evolved and brought so much more passion to the winners coming in. You imagine coming up through the parade ring to that winners' enclosure now with so many people shouting for you, cheering you. Oh, it's a great sporting occasion.
And were there as many Irish coming over back when you were young?
No, because we bought all the horses. Now all the big owners buy them and keep them in Ireland. So on that score, Willie Mullins got to be odds on for top trainer again, just looking through his entries. And the ones with multiple entries, and sorry to be going on like this, I've got some involvements through buying horses with them. We might have 3 runners there. I don't know. But several of them are entered in different races. And I asked Patrick Mullins the other day, Patrick, what do you think so-and-so will run in? Oh, Richard, he said, Willie can't make his mind up about what he's having on his toast until it pops out of the toaster. So that wasn't exactly helpful.
And the media coverage must have been not anywhere near as much as it is today.
Oh, television has broadened a lot, but media coverage and most of the racing hacks have been sacked. You know, there's hardly anyone doing it anymore. I mean, Marcus Armitage is the only one with the Telegraph. You know, Jim McGrath used to be a whole team in all these papers. But no, that's changed. But of course, television has got more access now. It's become more person to person. It's great. I love it.
And Sam?
Has there only been any significant changes with the layout of the track?
Oh, yes, enormous, Sam. I did mention about the Gold Cup starting where McCoy's statue is now, down by the shops there. But also at that time, there was a 4-mile chase, and it went through where the car park is now, along by the Cheltenham Evesham Road, back down where the hostel is, and joined the racecourse again up near the stables. It was quite incredible because they just went out of view for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But yes, of course it's changed. Then the addition of the new course in my time, also the cross-country course. But what a natural amphitheatre, Sam. You've got, I bet, you know, at your age at 16, you're full of enthusiasm, you're very knowledgeable. And when you get there, you look out across Prestbury Park and you think, there could be no better place to put a racecourse.
Exactly. I couldn't believe how well it just fitted into that gap when I first went. With Cleve Hill in the background, it's perfect, isn't it? And the sound just echoes around.
Yes, and that roar when the first race of the 4 days goes, and the crowd just roar. I mean, it's marvelous. But it wasn't always there, you know. Before that, it was on the hill, up above, on the top of Cleve Hill. And it was very popular, and so much so they built a special road in from Withington, way round the other side of Cheltenham, high up, to get the people in. And it was very gambly, and there was a new Church of England priest in Cheltenham called Dean Close. And he thought it was terrible. So his gambling, you know, all these people enjoying themselves getting drunk, he and his pursuers or followers went and burnt the stands down.
Oh, wow.
So that's how it came downhill, and how fortuitous that it did.
And also the Irish, as far as winning races, back in 1989, they actually failed to win a race. Now, say last year it was 23-5. That's certainly changed.
Yeah, and it's just as strong now. I mean, Gordon Elliott will have as big a team as Willie, but there's many more. Mick Winter only has a few. Gavin Cromwell. No, there's a stack of people, who it isn't just Willie and Gordon. They're all there to be, to be admired and respected. We must respect them. I know people get annoyed and say it's not all about Cheltenham this season, but it pretty much is.
And is that has that changed over the years? Has it become too important, or?
I don't think so. Are the Olympics too important? No. It's our Olympics. It is important, and think of the trade it brings. 50% of the people there are Irish. I was, as I say, born there. I wish I'd kept hold of my parents' house. I'd have rented that out for Cheltenham Week, made a packet, wouldn't we? No, I love the rivalry. I absolutely love it. But when you think Willie and Gordon will have teams of over 50 and could nearly be 60 over the 4 days. When I was riding, the big trainers, Fruit Warwin, Fred Winter, Fred Reimel, in the North, Gordon Richards, W.A. Stevenson, never had more than 50 horses to train. And now a trainer can come over with 50 runners.
One Irish jockey who did have success at the Cheltenham Festival was Charlie Swan, who won the champion hurdle 3 times with Istabrac in 1998, 99 and 2000. Charlie was also the leading jockey at the festival in 1993 and 1994. I was lucky to catch up with Charlie as he is helping on another interesting podcast, which is soon to be released, to discuss his first and favourite memories of Cheltenham.
I suppose when I was growing up, I used to always look at the Gold Cup and things. I suppose probably the year Tide Cottage fell at the last in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I can remember watching that. I think Alverton might have won it. That's probably one of my first memories, really. And then I think my first ride there, I broke my arm in the Triumph Hurdle. So it wasn't a great start for me, but it ended out all right.
Well, not a good start. Well, the Triumph Hurdle, perhaps in your day, there was probably 30 runners, I think.
Yeah, I think there was a good few runners, all right. But there wasn't too many near the finish. They were well strung out. Yeah, I got a fall at the last.
Oh, you got to the last then? Were you in contention?
I think I was going to finish 5th or 6th or something like that. But they were well strung out.
Not the best start for your first ride then?
No, then I actually, when I was in the ambulance on the way back to the weigh room, the ambulance crashed into a car. I nearly went out to the front window. So to get a fall and then get a crash on the way back to the weigh room wasn't great either.
No, not the best start, was it?
No.
You had many successes at Cheltenham, famously Istabrac, Viking Flagship and Denoli, but which gave you the most pleasure?
Well, that's a hard one. They all gave me great pleasure, but I suppose winning the 3rd champion hurdle on Istabrac, would have to say, there wasn't many, there hasn't been too many horses that have done it 3 times. And to be part of that group, I suppose it was a big thrill that day, really, and especially the fright the night before that the horse had burst a blood vessel in his box, and we weren't sure whether he was going to run or not. So it was a great relief, and that was probably the best one, really, I suppose.
And do you think he'd have won next year if we hadn't had Foot and Mouth?
Yeah, he was in great form at the time, and it was a pity. Now it was, it's so annoying, but there's nothing we can do about it now, I'm afraid.
And I've got to ask this question: How is Istabrac, and when did you last see him?
Yeah, he's in great order. He's I haven't seen him for about 3 or 4 months, I suppose, but I keep asking JP, and he says he's in good order, and I often ask the lads in the yard down there. he goes out every day. He's on the walker. He's, they look after him so well down there. There's one place, if you retire, you'd want to be a racehorse to be retired down there. It would be the best place.
Talking of change, Sam, what are your thoughts on the possibility of 5 days instead of 4 at the festival?
I don't think it should change from 4 for a range of reasons. It seems like that would just be for corporate means for all the various people who benefit from this kind of event to get more money. And I think it'd sacrifice maybe the quality that we see. I know a lot of people kind of have grievances with the Rein being partway between the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup, because it gives horses an extra option, and then you've got all the novice chases as well. So if you were to add more to the mix, you'd have to find about 7 more races, and that would surely detract away from the ones we've got now. And as well, I think if it moved to the Saturday, that would be quite damaging for Uttoxeter and the Midlands National as well. That'd have to be rescheduled, and it push the whole calendar around, really. And people are moaning there's too many races already, so I don't think you can add an extra day to Cheltenham on that basis.
And Richard, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, very valid points from Sam, and you can come from lots of angles. The only angle I could see it coming from is to give a chance to the people who can't compete at the top level. I know that's watering things down, but there are lots of people who could get a Cheltenham winner. The Saturday would be less it would almost be like the Saturday of Ascot. It's not quite the same as Royal Ascot, and therefore it'd be a lesser day, but all the facilities are in place. I don't know. I'd need to think more about it, but I'm not totally against shutting the door.
That's all for episode 106, Cheltenham Memories with Richard, Sam and Charlie. In episode 107, coming up in a few days, I chatted to Richard and Sam about the major races at this year's festival.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot. Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.